I'll let a couple of people more slide in here before we
Yeah,
officially
I see the
start.
number going up. We got some humans in the
Yeah,
webinar. We can't see you, but you can see us. Hello, hello.
the number's rising. Okay.
Love that.
All right. Hello and welcome everybody to Sierra Pacific Social Media University. Today, you better be ready to ignite your social media spark because we've got the inspiring Chelsea Peitz. So Chelsea Peitz has been in social media for over the last 2 decades, also a real estate expert. She used to be a realtor. She has a podcast. She's also named as one of Inman's most influential marketers in real estate. And this year, she got Inman's Marketing All Star. I am so excited to have Chelsea today. I've been following her on Instagram and I feel like I know her personally. You guys are just going to love her just as much as I am today. So, welcome, Chelsea. Thank you for being here.
Yay, I'm so excited to be here. Yes, this is my normal excitement level throughout the day, and I just love teaching, especially teaching real estate and mortgage humans how to leverage social media. Just a quick background about me. Yes, I'm Chelsea Peitz. My last name rhymes with lights. I got my real estate license in 2001 BF, and that stands for before Facebook. So I did not grow up with social media. I remember my parents opening the door and buying an encyclopedia that was really beautiful and brown and had like gold etching on it. And that's basically what I grew up with. So if you're resonating with that, maybe you're a Gen Xer like I am. I'd love to know if you're a Gen Xer, drop it in the chat. 90s and plaid and Doc Martens forever. But I share that because my superpower is really helping people like myself who probably didn't grow up with social media, probably didn't grow up feeling like talking to your phone in Target was a normal thing to do, and making videos every day was going to be part of your day to day. I see we've got some Gen Xers. I love it. Yay for my real world fans. And so I know that a lot of us and a lot of you are probably feeling overwhelmed by the amount of social media material that you are probably inundated with. There's always something new happening on every platform. We're talking about Instagram today, which, let's be honest, Instagram has like 20 platforms inside of itself. Like, it's always changing. There's always something new. And it can feel really overwhelming to have this idea that we feel forced to become a full-time digital content creator. That in 2024, maybe I don't want to be making videos all the time. I don't want to be oversharing my life. I don't want to be making TikToks. And so there's a lot of things and vulnerabilities that go into being in the world of social media, especially if we didn't grow up with it. And my background is in clinical psychology. I was actually going to be a therapist. But I joke and I tell people I became a realtor, which is kind of like the next best thing. So I feel like I did get to use that degree a bit, but I share that because I've written a couple of books about how we as human beings connect to other human beings and build trust digitally. And the really cool punchline is that our brains have no idea that we're actually looking at a face on a screen and looking at a face in real life. Kasha and I have never met in the same physical space, really, but she said, I feel like I know her. And that's exactly because of the power of social media and the power of Instagram and being able to share your story at scale. Because 25 years ago, I'd walk into my brokerage office and my broker asked me the same thing. How many people did you talk to today? If you are prospecting, you know what that's like, whether it's on LinkedIn or seeing people or going to an event. And 25 years ago, we all remember, like, I had to actually get in a car and drive somewhere, go see someone. Maybe on a busy day, I got to see 3 human beings and have meetings, right? So we have this beautiful opportunity to, at scale, even if y'all never make a video, if you never make an Instagram reel, we have the ability in 2024 to be able to talk to people without a phone number, without an email, without any postage, and be able to send them a message where they're already paying attention and make someone feel seen, make their day, offer them help, just say hello. There's never been anything that where we can connect with other human beings at scale. And so if you think of it as a CRM 2.0, where you can actually connect with other human beings, I want you to know that you do not have to make videos and content every day. So with that, let's get into a few details before we really get into the tactics. It's so important to understand how these platforms work. So we're going to talk about the algorithm. Yeah, the algorithm. And by the way, if you love Facebook and LinkedIn, this is actually going to apply to every algorithm. Okay. This is just a generic high level view of how these things work, because when you know how these things work, you can make smarter decisions and you don't have to be making content every single day. A lot of you are going to be shocked when I tell you I post once or twice a week in the Instagram feed. I talk to people every single day. And here's why. The algorithm is just a software system that's basically taking inputs and data, and it's trying to figure out what kind of content it can share with you in your feed to keep you coming back for more. So it's not as important as what kind of content you're posting. It actually cares more about who you are talking to. So your first point here is to write down who you talk to matters. Who are you talking to? Who are you following? Who are you engaging with on the socials? I would recommend that you, with intention, have some past clients, some current clients, some of your favorite clients, maybe your referral business partners, maybe realtors in other states that you're going to be referring business to, maybe your ancillary partners like your title company and all of that. Because what happens is it has to figure out what are you interested in. So the more you proactively engage with accounts, either commenting on their posts or sending them direct messages, guess what happens? You start to train the algorithm. The algorithm says, wow, every time Kasha posts, Chelsea is commenting or sending a direct message. Okay, well, we're going to make sure that every time Chelsea goes into the feed, if Kasha's posted, we're going to make sure she sees it. So if you're picking up what I'm putting down, yes, I am telling you that the more you communicate, the more you talk to people through comments and DMs, the more likely they're going to see your future content, which is kind of awesome because now you are able to inform your algorithm by saying, I want to build a relationship with these people. I want these people to see my content in the future. And the really cool thing is that because we're talking back and forth now, guess who also sees my posts? That's right. Now they're showing our posts. So the number one thing to do before we get into content, before we talk about videos, is you need to be thinking in terms of less contenting, more commenting, because that is going to set the foundation of any platform you are on to start to say, here's who should see this content. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I keep seeing you pop up in my feed. I'm also seeing you in my DMs. Maybe you're on their email, their newsletter, and you're seeing them at actually live events. So that is the first step of understanding the algorithm. It's not necessarily how much content you're putting into it or how often or what time. It's looking at what is your content about? Is there a specific message? And I'm going to teach you how to get really specific with your message today. And who are you talking to? Because it's no coincidence that the people that you talk to the most are always at the top of your feed, right? So you don't necessarily have to make content and put it on Instagram, but your conversations can become, and I think are the most impactful content. Okay, so that's step number one. We talked about the algorithm and how you need to be a proactive engager to lay the foundation to make sure that your content, when you do post it, gets seen by the right people. The next thing that I want to talk about is we're going to get right into the 3 things that are working right now on Instagram. And I'm going to pull up my slides here in a second so you can take notes. This is being recorded, so you'll be able to rewatch it as well. And even better, you can watch it on 2-speed. There's 3 things we're going to talk about, and you might want to write this down. So the 3 words we're going to talk about today are specific. We're also going to talk about structure. And last but not least, we are going to talk about shareable. Specific, structure, shareable. Those are the 3 key elements specifically to Instagram to identify how you can optimize your content. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And the first thing that I want to talk about is messaging. And I know the biggest challenge for all of us is, what the heck do I post? And before we have what we're posting, we need to be very specific in some of the things that we are thinking about when it comes to creating messages. One, we have to have a very specific message for very specific humans, and those will come across in the specific words that you are using and saying in your videos, and also the words that you're writing in your caption and in your posts. And I know we're going to get a little woo woo on the feelings, but you're follow with me because I'm going to tell you exactly how this is going to work. And then we're also going to talk about stories, but not stories that you're telling, stories that your clients are actually believing when they're telling themselves. So the first thing that I want to mention is it's really important to think about when you're talking to that one person or your niche. You've all heard this a million times. You have to have a niche. You need to have one person you're talking to. I'm going to turn that idea on its head. And here's why. It was really hard for me to figure out like one person that I was talking to. I did the exercises. I was like, okay, they're this age, they have maybe this many kids, and they're whatever. They're buying a house, they're moving up, right? But we have so many different humans. And so the one thing that I like to think about in terms of who are you talking to first is to identify two things. What is the story that they're telling themselves and believing? It may not be true, but that doesn't matter because they believe it. So the story that your clients might be telling themselves right now and believing is that there's no way I'm going to be able to qualify for a home in this market. I'm totally priced out. I'm never going to be able to get it, right? That might be a story they're telling themselves. Some people in my world tell themselves, well, I'm not an expert. I can't go on and make videos, or it's oversaturated. Everybody has already said that, right? That's a limiting belief, a story we tell ourselves that we are believing. When I know that and I speak to that in my content, people say, whoa, I feel like you're talking directly to me. So instead of focusing on demographics and age and all of that, think about what's the story that my clients are telling themselves right now. And you could have a story for each different type of client, right? Now, I want to go a little bit deeper into that. So my favorite marketing human on the planet is Seth Godin. I don't know if anybody's read any of his books. I adore him. He's so brilliant and genius. And he talks about speaking to the smallest viable market. Okay. Not everyone, specific people. Are you targeting millennial home buyers? Are you speaking to, people that are trying to buy their first home? So specificity is going to be your best friend when it comes to the algorithm, because the more specific you can be in the words you're saying, and the more specific you are in the text, the algorithm is going to say, oh, we know exactly what this video is about, and we are going to serve it to those people. And remember, it's viable, not viral. I know our mortgage content and real estate content, by and large, is not going to go viral, and it doesn't need to. It needs to go to the viable people who are actually interested and searching online. By the way, I just did this today. I don't know if y'all have ever done this. I think this is a new update. You can now go into your Instagram settings. I just did it today, like I said. So you can go in there, go into your settings on your profile, hit the 3-line menu, go into account privacy, scroll down, and guess what you're going to see now? You're going to see a little toggle switch that says, would you like your content to appear in Google searches? Yes, please. We would love our videos that are on Instagram and our posts to be part of a Google search when somebody types in something about mortgages or interest rates or real estate. Yes, please. All of these things are becoming search engines. And now Google is going to be showing your Instagram posts as search results. So we need to get so specific, so contextual, so personalized that we need to be thinking about this in our content. But how do we do this? I know this might sound a little funny, but we're going to talk about emotions. And I'm going to show you how I use this in my content and how people say, I felt like you wrote this just for me. This is called the emotions wheel. You can Google it. You can take a picture if you want. There's a million and one of these things online. And I want you to ask yourself, like, think of your current client that you have right now, or a client that you've had in the last month. And I want you to ask yourself, how does my client feel before they work with me? After they work with me? How do they feel when they're like in the process? Like 3 phases, right? Why do we care about this? Because we're going to use those words in our copy. So for example, my clients, before they work with me, they feel overwhelmed by Instagram. And why wouldn't they? I'm going to come here, okay, overwhelmed. And you know what I'm going to use? I'm going to use that word in my content. Let me show you how it works, okay? Are you freaked out about making authority building content because you're terrified you might give someone bad advice? Okay, I'm hitting on a pain point where people are like, yeah, I want to make videos about mortgages and real estate, but honestly, I'm a little bit nervous that if I say the wrong thing or give bad advice or someone takes it and disagrees, people are going to come for me in the comments and they're going to say, this is a terrible idea. Okay, so by the way, the answer to that is instead of telling people what they should be doing, just tell them what you did. or what you helped a client do. Because now you're coming from a place of lived experience and storytelling, not necessarily a prescriptive, hey, everybody, this is the biggest mistake that everybody is making, or you should do this if you're thinking about buying a house. You can make that content, but if you're a little bit nervous about that expert level content, just tell your own story. Okay. Now, here's another one. You want to show up online as a credible authority, but you're also a likable human, right? But you're a little bit nervous about oversharing, and you definitely don't want to document everything in your whole dang day. Some of you were like, oh my God, that's like literally me. How are you speaking? How are you in my head right now? It's because I took the time to look at those words like nervous, anxious, overwhelmed. And now I speak to that specific person in my messaging. So this will work on any platform, not just Instagram, but it's important to start with messaging and being specific in who you're talking to and knowing that you don't have to create one avatar, one person based on they're a home buyer, they live in this area, they have 3 dogs. You can do that, but why don't you start with looking at what are the stories they're telling themselves and believing, and how can I speak directly to that in my content? So here's how we're going to create specific messaging. I'm going to put these all up here and just talk to them quickly, and then we're going to move into the next piece. So again, like I mentioned, how do you feel? How do they feel before, during, and after working with you? And you're going to use those words in your content, right? What stories are they telling themselves and believing? My clients tell themselves all the time, I can't stand myself on camera. I'm not confident on camera. I don't know what to say. Everything has already been said. Who wants to see the boring behind the scenes of my life? These are all things that they tell themselves and believe. I also want you to write down what questions are your clients asking you. That is an endless amount of content ideas for you. And more importantly, what are the questions they're not asking? That, in my opinion, is the most powerful converting content. Why? Because, commonly asked questions are just that, commonly asked questions. You've probably seen a bunch of people in your industry answering the same questions over and over again. Great. You should do that and put your own spin on it. We need a foundational content library of frequently asked questions because someone's going to find yours and not look at the other person's. But what really builds mind share and connection is when you can answer an unasked questions. What are unasked questions? They're unasked for 2 reasons. One, they don't know to ask them. They've never bought a house before. They've never gone through an inspection. They've never bought an investment property. They've never gotten that kind of loan before. They don't know what they don't know. And when you can create a piece of content where they go, oh my gosh, I hadn't even thought of that. Like, thank you for making that because it hadn't even crossed my mind. That's what we call giving them an aha moment. And they associate you with that aha moment. And they're like, wow, you are the expert, right? Also, people don't ask because they feel embarrassed. If you've been in a live class with people and they're like, hey, does anybody have any questions? And then somebody raises their hand and they're like, I know this is kind of a silly question, but we always think, oh my gosh, what will they think of me? Like, I should know this, especially if it's about like an interest rate thing or more. I've had multiple houses. Like, they're going to think like, how am I going to know this? Right. Also, we don't want to spend the brain power to think of these questions. So the fact that you're bringing it to us, we're like, wow, thank you. I appreciate you. So not only questions that are frequently asked, but more importantly, what are the questions they're not asking? Make content around that. And then how do they self-identify? Are you a soccer parent? Are you a, binge watcher Netflix on the weekends? Like, have those conversations so you can identify with that community. And then also, why do they care, right? If we're going to make a piece of content about interest rates, why do they care? It's not because they want the latest updates on interest rates. Sometimes it is, but maybe they really want to see if they can save some money and they want to do a refinance. That's what you're going to lead with in your mind. You have to think about, it's not just about a house. It's not just about a tip of the day, but why do they actually care? Well, here's why they care. That's what I'm going to make this content about. And then I'm going to slide in the information about interest rates or whatever it is that you're talking about. Okay. So now that we've got that out of the way, we're going to dive in specifically to structuring your content. And the examples that I'm going to show you here are video content. It's Instagram Reels. Okay. Now, before I show you all of these ideas, I want you to know that I didn't start out this way. And if you're like me and you're a rule follower and you love a checklist, then you might also be the kind of person that I was when I would get like, oh, okay, here's all these best practices, and it would spend 3 hours making a 30-second video, and it would take me forever to post it because I was trying to get everything perfect. This is not that, okay? You just pick one thing, and eventually you can layer in all of the other ones. I'm not saying that you have to have every single one of these things checklisted off of your list in order to make a good quality video for Instagram, okay? But this is sort of the ultimate best practices. If you were able to make all of this happen in your videos, then you're going to have a much better shot at getting more watch time, getting more engagement, getting more reach, and all of the things that I know all of you want. Okay, so let's dive into it. Again, there's going to be words on here. I'm going to show you visuals, so you can just take a picture of this if you want to, because I'm going to give you examples on every slide here of each one of these. We're going to teach you how to stop the scroll. I'm going to teach you how to optimize with SEO and keywords. I'm going to teach you how to start getting more engagement and starting conversations. And then I'm also going to tell you something so simple that is maybe probably the one thing that you can go and change today that is actually going to get you more followers and more conversions, and it's a scannable profile. So let's dive in. Obviously, here's me. I just want to point out here that there's no production value. I am not in a studio. I do not have like all these really cool lights. I do have that. I do have cool lights. I do have studio equipment. But I want you to know that good content doesn't need good editing, and good editing doesn't necessarily make a good message or good content. It probably can keep you watching a little bit longer because there's things that are moving in edits, but you don't have to have all the bells and whistles. You can literally sit down on the floor like I am here with your camera, and you can start recording yourself. So that is something that holds up a lot of us, and it held up me for a long, long time because I thought I had to have all these things. And guess what? I bought all of them and I never even used them. And I still to this day come back to just using my phone because it's just easier. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how do we stop the scroll? Well, the easiest way to stop people from scrolling like this is what we call hooks. And hooks can be something you say, so verbal. Hooks can be text on the screen. So you see right here highlighted in yellow, it says, how I make my talk to camera reels and why I make them this way. That's actually a hook. It's just text that's on my screen. And then I also like to throw in a third hook, which is the first line of my caption. So here's some lines so that you can see where I'm talking about. This is a lot already, right? So just know that the most important one in my eyes is actually not the one you're saying. It's the one you're seeing. So that's the most important one. Why? Because think about how you consume content on Instagram. You're just scrolling, 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 scrolling. We need that visual, and we read so quickly. We don't even have the sound on sometimes when we're scrolling. So it's really important to have that text there that talks about what is the topic of your video? What are you going to talk about? You can see mine here isn't anything crazy and hyperbolic, like the biggest mistake people are making. It could be that. I'm just literally saying, here's how I make this and why. Like, I'm just telling you, that's what you're going to get in my video. So that's probably the most important because that's going to be read and people might say, oh, I'm actually interested in this topic. I want to see it. Okay. So what's a verbal? Well, it's just how you're starting your video. You can start your video any way you want, but a very simple, easy way is to ask a question. Ask a question and use the word you. Have you ever wondered how much it is that you need down to buy your first house? Simple, right? Asking a question and using the word you is going to invite people into the conversation, because when our brain hears a question and it hears people say the word you, like if you're ever in a room and someone says, hey, you, a lot of us are going to turn because that word is very powerful in our mind. So ask a question that includes the word you, simple, easy hook. What we don't want to do is we don't want to waste those precious couple of seconds by doing a formal introduction. You can tell people who you are later. They can also see your name and click on your profile if they want more information, but you want to just get right into it. And so you can either ask a question or you could even say something really conversational like, hey, you'll never believe that this just happened today, and just go into it. Okay. So here's a couple of super simple hooks. If you want like 60 more of these, you can go to my Instagram profile and you can download my hooks guide, or you can go to ChatGPT. I mean, it's every hook has already been made, right? Do you want blank? What if you blank? Here's how I bought my first 3 multifamily properties, blah, 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 right? Super simple. And guess what? These are all questions, right? And then also those conversational, like just right in the middle of a conversation with a friend. And that's a really more sort of genuine feeling, hey, we're in the middle of a conversation, intimate way to connect with people. So keep it simple. Again, if you're making a video, I applaud you. I don't even care about your hook. Just making the video is great. Okay. So the next thing here is eye contact. This is so important. I wrote an entire book about how our brains connect and how important eye contact is, especially with a screen, which is why it's a little bit hard for me when I'm on Zooms because my camera is actually up here, but I'm looking over here because there's a human over here in my screen. So if I really want to make eye contact or have it feel like I'm making eye contact with you, it's important for me to look here. And if you're making videos on your phone, let me see if I can activate this so you can see it. This is where you need to be looking, okay? We need to make eye contact. It might feel weird. For years, friends, I looked at my own eyes in the reflection of the screen. I didn't know where else to look. I had no idea. But if you really want to connect that attention and also that trust building process, you need to make eye contact with the lens of your camera. Next thing that we have here is every video you're making on Instagram, whether it's Instagram stories, reels, whatever it may be, or on any platform for that matter, it is critical. It is not a, oh, nice to have, maybe I'll add that another time. It's required in my mind to have closed captions. Those are those subtitles that basically, as you're talking, it's showing the words. And we need that for so many reasons. Number one, 90% of us are scrolling with no sound on. And maybe I'm at the airport, maybe I'm next to somebody who's like, sleeping or whatever. You need to be able to give people a variety of ways to consume your content. If I need to listen to your content in order to consume it and I can't turn on the volume right then, I'm going to skip it. I'm never coming back. I'm not going to engage. I'm not going to share it. Also, if you're, neurodivergent like I am, it's really helpful for me to have the words and hear someone say it at the same time. So closed captions is a must. Also, not as important as the human element, but guess what's also reading the closed captions and every word on your post? The algorithm. And the more information you can give it, the more specific the wording is, the algorithm says, we know exactly what this video is about and who to send it to. We know how to categorize it. We know how to organize it. So it's really, really important. You got to have closed captions on your videos. You might want to have some calls to action, and calls to action just tell people specifically what to do next. Should they leave you a comment? Should they leave you a specific emoji just to let you know that it was helpful? Should they share this with a friend who's looking to get their first home? You can see here, mine says screenshot this list. If maybe you're giving an educational video and you're giving like the 5 steps to getting pre-qualified, put the list down there and tell them, hey, screenshot this, right? Because all we want to do is get people to click and open up our caption and spend more time with our content. Why? Because the more time somebody spends, whether they click and open a caption, whether they share it with someone, save it, the algorithm says, ooh, people are spending time on this content. We should share it to more people. And so that's how you're going to get more reach too. Is if you have content, you got to tell people why they need to go and look at it, or why they need, or how they should engage with you. Okay. And then I actually don't put any music when I'm talking in my videos. I know we love music on Reels and TikTok, and absolutely you should use music when it's like cinematic and it's like a B-roll. But if you are talking and you are creating thought leadership, authority building content, and if you're in real estate and mortgage, that's what you're doing, right? You are explaining to people one of the biggest fiduciary elements of their lifetime. And so that comes with educational content. And so if we are competing to hear you over music, or worst case scenario, which just happened to me, I added music and guess what? They took the soundtrack off of Instagram. And they didn't just take the soundtrack off, they took my voice too. So you don't want to have a bunch of videos where you're giving really great educational information and you're building this binge-worthy content library, and then all of a sudden something happened with the artist or something like that, and then they take your entire audio, and then you have a bunch of videos that literally have no audio and your mouth moving, right? So use music on the ones that maybe don't have you talking, or at least try to make some videos of you talking without relying on the music, because they are removing those audio tracks as well. So if you are going to be talking in that video and you're not using music, one thing I keep seeing over and over and over again with people that they're not doing is y'all can put keywords in your audio title. Yes, and I'm seeing nobody do that. They're just like leaving it where it says original audio. And if you are not using music, you can use keywords. You can tap on original audio when you're about to post your reel, and you can change the title. And you can see here, I just changed it to my IG Reel strategy for trust and conversions. I'm not like just putting a bunch of keywords in, but again, our content's not going out to Google from Instagram. If they're giving you an opportunity to put keywords in for what you should be found for, home loans, mortgage, interest rates, real estate related terms, y'all should do it because it's going to help the system understand how to sort and serve your content. And if you really want to grow long term, it is consistently posting about the same general concepts again and again so that the algorithm knows, wow, you've been posting about this for a long time. We know how to sort and serve your content. So another pro tip on SEO is you can actually put keywords in your audio track title. The last two things on here is I have a question mark in blue standalone. Does your content kind of stand alone? Because here's the thing, Reels doesn't show you video number 1 and then video number 2. It's going to pick a random video that you made and it's going to show it out to the world. And not every video you have is going to be like a standalone episode that they're going to be like, oh, I know exactly what you do. You do real estate or you do mortgage. Every once in a while, I have just like a fun vacation one and it has nothing to do with what I do. But 90% of the time, if not more, I'm creating content that if found out of order, people can tell, what do I talk about? What is my general topic? How do I help people? What is my expertise? So if it's all over the place and we don't have a theme, then it might be a good thing to kind of look at your last few posts and say, would I be able to tell what I did or how I helped people in these last like 10 videos that I made? And then this is my favorite one, and this is the one that is so simple, but is going to absolutely help more people click that follow button when they come to your profile. And it's creating a scannable content library. Because what happens, I just put those red arrows up there. That's how our eyes work, right? We're just scanning. And the science of what we're looking for, two things. We're looking to, number one, if you're trustworthy and if you're competent. How do we determine in a second on Instagram if you're trustworthy? Is your face in the content? I know. You're like, ugh, I don't really want to have, I don't, does that mean I have to be in everything? It doesn't mean you have to be in everything, but I want to see you in a good amount of the first 9 posts. Like I want to see that there is a human being there because that's how my brain subconsciously is like verified. This is a human. This is the person that was referred to me. And usually social media is one of the last places people go before they check mark and say, okay, I'm going to reach out. So this might be the difference where somebody says, I'm going to go to the next person that I got referred to, or this is the person I'm going to reach out to. The second thing is competence. Well, how do I tell if someone's competent? I know this sounds wild, guys, but it's simply having titles on your cover photos. So that when I'm scanning through here, I'm not going to watch all 300 videos of you talking about interest rates. But the fact that you have 300 videos that I can see clearly talk about rates and all of this stuff, I'm like, wow, this person probably knows what they're talking about. They probably have a level of expertise. Yeah, I think this might be the person I'm going to reach out to. So it's important to have your face in the content. It's also important to have easy to read, functional, not fancy titles. If you're thinking, well, this is great, I have no titles on any of my old reels, that's okay. You can actually go back and if you want to manually upload a cover photo, you can do that. I don't recommend that you go back and do that for 20, 30, 200 videos. But what you should all have is you should have at least 3 pinned reels to your profile. And those need to have cover photos that tell you exactly what they're about because people are not going to scroll through your stuff. They're not going to scroll down and try to find that one video you made a year ago that talks about your level of expertise and why they should work with you. No, we need that pinned to the top and we need it very clear. Hey, start here, meet my team. Here's why you should work with me. Here's my expertise. Okay. So that was a whole lot of tactical stuff about how to create a structure of your Instagram reel specifically. Let me just tell you that the number one thing that I think is the most important is that this scannable one is super duper important. And I would say probably your hook. You don't need to have all the other bells and whistles. Again, if you're wondering how I make my videos and if you're stressing about scripting or memorizing, another really great benefit of Instagram and honestly TikTok and Facebook too, is I actually record all of my videos in clips. I actually write out a script just so I have something to reference. And instead of memorizing it, because what happens when we memorize is that our brain is activated in a different spot than controls our face. And then what happens is we make this video and maybe we record it 30 times and we're like, okay, I got it. I hit the sentences. And then you watch it back and you're like, oh, this just doesn't really feel like me. And then we think, well, we're the problem. No, the reason it doesn't feel like you is because now you're reading. And your tone is totally different when you read than when you actually talk to people. You're not using your hands because you're staring straight ahead into a camera. And your face isn't moving like it normally does because you're actually thinking so hard about bullet point number 3. And that's why you don't like the final video. So I don't memorize anything anymore. In fact, I hate it when I have to memorize something because it always comes out kind of forced and weird. So what do? You literally record one sentence at a time. You press and hold and record. You say your first sentence. Do you want to know how much it takes to buy a 3-bedroom house and whatever? Okay, I'm just coming up with that. You ask a question and then you let go. You pull your thumb off the record button and guess what? Magically, it holds your spot. It saves your spot so you can get a drink of water. You can look back down at your bullet points. You can reset yourself. You can take a breath and then you can hold it down again and just record the next sentence. And it magically stitches it all together. And you don't have to worry about recording the whole darn thing or rage recording the 35th take of it, where you are definitely not yourself in that last final recording. Okay. So we're going to round out with oh, I forgot I put this in here. Okay. So for those of you who are like, okay, great, but like, how do I go in and add the cover photo? This is a little picture of the inside of when you're about to post your reel. There's a little button on here that says edit cover. And so if you want to go back and like edit any of your cover photos because it is so important, or if you want to just going forward be able to do that, you're just going to click on edit cover. And then what happens is it's going to pull up the video itself and you're going to be able to select a frame from the actual video. And you can see that there is a blue outline around one of the small little frames in my video, but you don't have to use something from the video. You can, or there's a big blue button there that says add from camera roll. And that means that if you have something that you've made maybe in Canva or somewhere else and you've saved it in your camera roll, you can now upload that as the actual cover photo for the reel. And yes, you can do this with stuff that's old. You can go in, go click onto your reel, click the 3 dots and click edit or manage, and then you'll be able to edit your cover photo. And the cool thing is too, is you can actually preview what it's going to look like in the feed. So right now, Instagram is all square. It's allegedly changing, but for now, it's all square. So you're used to seeing these squares. Allegedly, it's going to change to vertical, but we shall see. But so for right now, if I want to see and make sure my words are centered, I can actually drag this little picture around and place it. So I love that because it's going to help you make sure that your words are visible. And you can just tap that profile grid and it's going to show you what it's going to look like. You can move it around because it does you no good to have text and have it get cut off, because we need to be able to see it and scan through your content. I don't have this feature anymore. They took it away from my account, but I still think it's relevant. They're always testing things on my account. Keywords and SEO, we talked about like hashtags, just words in general. There's also this feature, and I don't know if I'm going to get it back, but it's called topic tags. And there used to be this little button that says add topics on my reels. And what they want you to do is add 3. Now, unfortunately, there's not like real estate and mortgage. There's not even social media. But what I would go in and I would do is I would put like small business, entrepreneurship, and something else that was business wise. The reason they were asking people to do this is because they're training their AI right now. And they're training their AI so that they understand what your content is all about. I also believe that the pound symbol, the number symbol of the hashtags is going to go away. We're not going to need it. The AI is so smart, it can read all the words. It doesn't need the symbol. So don't worry too much about hashtags. Yes, they still work. They are still relevant, but hashtags aren't going to help you convert. They're simply going to tell the system how to organize and categorize your content so that people can more easily find it. Okay, so it's not a silver bullet. Yes, we can still use hashtags. One day they probably will no longer have the symbol in front of it, But if you do have this on your reels, I highly recommend using these topic tags because it is something that they have rolled out and they're wanting people to use. Okay. I don't think I see any question. I do see a couple of questions in there. So perfect. I can go back to all of those too. So, all right. Last thing we're going to talk about is shareable content. So we talked about specific messaging. We talked about how to structure your content. And now we're going to talk about shareable content. And shareable content is relevant to Instagram right now because the CEO of Instagram recently came out and said, hey, this is the metric that we are really heavily weighting. And it's is your content getting shared? Okay. Are people hitting that little like paper airplane icon and sharing it to either their Instagram story, or are they sharing it one-to-one via a direct message? And so what happens is the more shares you get, the more overall reach you will probably get. So you're going to get more views, more reach, maybe more profile visits, maybe even more followers if your content is shared. So the challenge is, well, what exactly is share-worthy content? Don't worry, I've got some examples for you here. I made a little acronym that helps me remember how content is shared and what we share. And one we talked about is specific, right? Using those really specific words to find that specific audience. Obviously, if it's helpful, if it's insightful or informational or impactful. I think also authentic content is getting shared. That means it has a person in it, and it doesn't mean you have to be in every video. But the thing that creates original content is when you share your unique perspective and your personality. Is it relevant and relatable to their needs and also on brand for them? And does it have some emotion? Does this mean that you have to be crying in your videos? No. And yes, real estate and mortgage can hit emotions because we all want to make smart investments and we all want to have that dream of home ownership and helping other people. So there is an emotional element to that. So I'm going to give you 4 categories and then I'm going to give you some examples. And don't worry, at the end, I have a QR code and you can scan it and you can get all of the examples. Okay. So the first example of how to create share-worthy content is, can you become a resource for these people? Can you talk about breaking news? Can you go to Housing Wire, Inman, NAR, whatever you get your news from? Can you screenshot that article and create a little Instagram reel where you've got that article behind you using the green screen filter and your face is still on it? You can say, hey, I wanted to give you a really quick summary of this particular article and what it means. You're giving not only a summary of the article, but you're talking about your interpretation, your analysis, the need to knows. And guess what? You didn't even have to write the article. So how amazing is that? You don't have to write the breaking news. You can just be the reporter who gives you the insights on it. You could also give lists of your favorite places to go in your area. It could be your favorite local businesses. It could be your favorite pediatric doctors in this zip code. It could be your list of top resources or people to follow. So becoming a resource is a great way to have content that people share because they're like, wow, this was really helpful. This is topical. This is need to know information. I'm going to share it with my community. Here's an example of my friend Taya. She talks about a Zillow article. She did not write it. She's just talking about it, what it said, gives a summary in the actual caption, and then she gives her 2 cents. And that means her insights and her opinions. So she doesn't just give the summary, she gives the summary and then she says, and here's what I think about it. You could leave that part off if you wanted to, but I will say that's what makes her content so original is that she's giving her insights as well. You can see she's got captions on this, which is awesome. Another option could be what I call the too long didn't read. All of these new changes that are happening, it's great when we have somebody that can say, I've gone through everything and here's what you need to know in plain English. Okay. Just simple, easy to do. And you notice this is not a video. This is a carousel post. So you can do that too. Another friend of mine in San Diego, best San Diego daycation. Okay. Look at the numbers on this, 214 likes, 15 comments, and 40 shares. More shares than comments. Why? Because people who are living in the local area, they want to know like, oh yeah, that would be a great place. Let me send this to my friends. So it doesn't necessarily only have to be about breaking news. It could be quote unquote breaking news for you in your area and places that you like to go. The next category is insider tips. I'm going to throw these on here. This would be like your trade secrets. You've been in the business for 25 years. You probably know a lot, right? You can probably say, hey, I have sold this many houses or I have done this many loans. And here's the one thing that sticks out to me that you need to know as somebody who's been in this business for a long time. Frequently asked questions. We talked about that earlier. Answering those questions, simplifying, organizing complex and multi-step processes like buying a home, like getting a loan, and making it into a checklist or a template or a framework so it makes it easier. When we take stuff like that and make it easy to digest, people will share it. Oh, this was helpful. And it's all right here and it's in one thing. Okay. Here's a couple of examples. This is one I did. I talked about sort of an uncommon solution to a common question. Do I need to follow all these social media quote rules? And I talk about the rules that I break and I put them out in a list. Another one from Jason, he's telling realtors, here's how you can access flips. Like, here's how you can get into this, or I'm going to teach you how to do this, right? From his own lived experience. And then also, I love an acronym. You already saw this earlier where I talked about share. But this one got shared quite a bit because people were like, thank you for putting this complex idea of what is shareable content into a very simple framework. And I'm going to share this with my community. The next one is lived experience. This is your how I did it. This is what you learned. This is how your clients did it. These are the cautionary tales, the lessons learned, what I wish I knew when I started real estate 25 years ago, what I wish I knew before I bought my first house. Also, maybe you're going to try some of your own little experiments and insights gained. These are the ones that I see that I would love to see more of. I see a lot of educational. I see a lot of becoming the resource. I see a lot of the insider tips. I think we don't really share a lot of our lived experiences and people want to hear those stories, right? Here's the how I did it. This is the example I showed you earlier. I'm telling you how I make my videos and why. And people want to know, how do I make my videos? Like, what lighting do I use? Do I use lighting? How do I record them? And I'm telling them exactly, here's how I did it. And not necessarily how you should do it, but I'm going to show you a little bit of insight of how I do it. And then if you want to try it that way, you can. Also, if anybody follows Glinda, she's great at giving the lessons learned. Like, this is what happened. Like, you'll never believe this, but once upon a time, I sold the wrong house and whatever that may be, right? So there's a lot of lessons learned and stories that we can share. And those cautionary tales where people say, oh my gosh, you know what? I'm so glad you shared that because I hadn't even thought of it. And it's really important. And you helped me from making a mistake. Last one here is thought leadership. This is where you are answering the unasked questions. You are myth busting. You all know the myth. You all know that that same topic. Well, I thought I had to have X amount of dollars down to buy a house. Okay, well, we're going to talk about that. And here's why you don't have to. That's when you truly become that trusted thought leader. And you don't have to just make up your original thought leadership content. You can take somebody that you greatly respect. Like, I greatly respect Seth Godin, and I will take what he said and a quote like I did in this particular presentation, and I will add on, I will expand it. So you don't always have to create everything from scratch. You certainly need to give those people credit, but you also can expand upon something like, what would you add, or what maybe did they miss? This is that perspective shifting aha moment content. And I always like to kind of like classify it as, you thought it was X, but it's actually Y. This is the kind of content where people say, ooh, I never thought about it like that. I'm going to share this because if I didn't think about it like that, other people aren't thinking about it like that. So that was a lot of content in a very short amount of time. Let me show you a few examples of what I mean by the unasked question. Questions about, like this one is, these common misconceptions are affecting your bank account. Y'all can just take that title and put it into whatever you do with real estate. Like, these common misconceptions are impacting your ability to buy your first house, or it could be, qualify for a loan. And so the Mythbuster is a really, really good one where you can kind of address those myths that people are having about your particular industry and niche as well. Okay, so that was a lot. I want to make sure that we have time for questions. I'm going to pull up my slide here that if you want more of those examples, I have a 50-page guide. So I'm just going to put this up here. You're welcome to take a little picture of it. If you aren't able to take a picture because you're actually listening on your phone, you can also go to my Instagram, which is just chelsea.peitz, and you can click the link in my bio, and there's going to be a ton of free downloads. There's actually a free Instagram course there. There's this 50-page guide. There's all sorts of goodies. And last but not least, you are all welcome to DM me. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, because sometimes I know questions will come later. You might not have thought of it, or we might run out of time. So I will start with the questions here in the chat first, and Kasha and I are going to go through those. And then if y'all have any more questions, just now's the time to drop them there in the chat. So Kasha, welcome back, friend. Well,
Oh my goodness, I learned so much today. And somebody wrote a comment that they like today it was gold, a gold
yay.
experience. I
It's a
mean,
full masterclass on Instagram. I'm sorry it's
yes,
so
yes.
much, but
I was taking my own notes, man.
yes.
Okay, let's look in here. All right, so I think they were interested in that or the chart, the feelings chart. Can you
Oh,
tell us
okay. Yes.
about that?
Actually, let me tell you what to do. So just Google the words. Let me make sure this is going to everyone and not just the hosts. Google emotions wheel. So you can Google emotions wheel, or there's a website called Human Systems, and it's .io, not .com. So this is like a thing that's been around forever. And so it's just a really nice visual that you can Google. And because I was like thinking, I don't know, how are they feeling? I could only come up with mad, sad, or happy. And I was like, well, they've got to be feeling something else other than that. So you can Google emotions wheel. If you like something that's more techy and high tech and has, lots of more things, then you can go to humansystems.io. And that's a really good exercise, is to, go look at your Instagram post and say, gosh, have I addressed any of these feelings? Like, have I addressed that people are feeling discouraged? Have I addressed that people are feeling like they're missing out on, they're never going to get a home because they're putting in all these offers, or there's no inventory and you're feeling discouraged? Like, those are really ways to connect with somebody and let them know that you understand and are in there, understand their story. And when people feel like you understand their challenge and their problem, they believe that you can help them and have an answer. So yeah, there's a emotions wheel for you. So question about not to get redundant with your posts and content. I don't know if Nicole, you relate to this, but once upon a time, I, for some reason, had this mindset that once I talked about something once, I could never talk about it again. I was like, oh, well, I mean, it's there. I talked about it 2 years ago. And certainly, like, people are going to get so tired of hearing me talk about this because I posted about it. And what I realized is there's just too much content in the feed, and people aren't active all day and every day, and they're not going to see all your content. But also, something that happens to me as well is I just watched a movie the other night for the second time. And I thought, that's weird. How did I not see that the first time? Like, I don't even remember that. And so I needed to be in a different mindset to catch it the second time. So you really do need to be redundant, meaning maybe you're not exactly saying the same words over and over again, but you need to say the same message a couple of different ways, or use the same topic. Maybe you make different formats, but you need to repeat yourself, because people are not going to be in the right mindset or season of life or need at the time when they're ready to, invest in a home. And then you talked about it 6 months ago. We need to keep talking about it. So an easy way to, like, not maybe necessarily repeat exactly word for word, you can change the format. You can do a talk to camera talking head reel where you're explaining a process. Then you can make the exact same topic where it's about the process, but instead of a video, you're putting it into a swipeable carousel with just images and text. And you can just, have someone swipe through that. You can also, and should, repeat. So whatever you posted a year ago or 2 years ago, you should go back through your content. And if you made content 2 years ago about this topic, I'm sure you have a new insight on that topic or something else to add. And so you're just going to recreate it, and it's just going to be a fresh one. It's just going to be a brand new one, but it's the same thing you talked about 2 years ago. And it's great because you probably already have all the content you'll ever need. You just need to go back to it and recycle, refresh. And some people truly repost the exact same content and it still performs. So you can do that too. But it is going to feel redundant to us. But just when I think and take for granted that, oh, I feel like everybody knows this. And I make something about it and people are like, I didn't know that. And I was like, well, I wasn't going to post this because I figured everybody knew it, but it's just a reminder that you're having new people come into your community. They didn't look at Instagram that day and they missed it. So you do need to be redundant. And if you're getting bored of it, maybe you could try different formats, or go back and remake your old content, especially if it already performed well. Okay, let's see.
There was a short question. So what's the rule of thumb on length of videos?
Yeah. So, gosh, wouldn't it be nice if there was like, well, it's 17 seconds is the magic number. Unfortunately, there is no like magic number. It just needs to be as long as it needs to be and not a second longer. And everybody hates it when I say that, but that really means that the goal is to be as concise as possible. It's no surprise people have a short attention span, but people have an attention span for something they're looking for.
Yeah.
And it's just like saying, well, don't write a book because people only listen to podcasts. Well, that's not accurate. So long form content is still alive and well. I think it will always be alive and well. Written content is awesome as well. But I would say, if we're looking strictly at Instagram and numbers, they've said, like actually put in writing, that 30 to 60 seconds is kind of like the quote unquote sweet spot for a longer form video. I can't even believe we're saying 30 to 60 seconds is a longer form video. But from what I personally think, and this is not written by Instagram, but just my anecdotal experience and my testing, it appears that the longer the video, like if I do a 90-second video with like no soundtrack, I'm just doing educational content, that's not really going to get pushed out by Instagram into the recommendation feed or to the explore page. But if I can keep it under a minute, I have a little bit of a better shot. But again, I don't care about the views because views do not equal value. I care about making a quality piece of content that answers somebody's question or concept thoroughly so that people can, when they find it, even if it's 3 people, they're like, wow, that was helpful. I'm ready to follow you, or I'm ready to reach out and work with you. So there is no perfect length. And the shorter ones, I mean, yeah, if it's 5 seconds, well, what's the chances of people watching the whole 5 seconds? Probably pretty good. And watch time is a big metric. So people are trying to engineer watch time, if I could say, and make a really short video in hopes that they drive those views up. But at the end of the day, if people can't hear you and your voice and your perspective and your thought leadership, we're having to build trust for a pretty big purchase, and talk about finances and all of that. So I think the ability to have some longer form mixed in with some short form would be great. So sorry to say there's no exact number, but I mix it up. Sometimes I do short ones, but a lot of my content is talking to the camera and doing education. And I know it's not going to go viral. That's not my goal. My goal is to serve and educate my community.
No, I think that's a great answer because then they'll come back to your profile and rewatch the videos, right? If you're the
Mhm.
expert, they trust you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so here's a question from Jesse. So she said, you talked in the beginning about less content and more commenting. So if my pool of people are real estate agents, past clients, future clients, do I simply interact and comment with ways that I can connect with their post, video, or what do you say?
Great question. I love that. So, a lot of questions, that one included, I always ask this one question back. I always say, what would you do in real life? So, put that on your notes somewhere because a lot of us say, well, what do I say? Like, what am I going to say? What am I going to say in my direct message? And I'm like, okay, what would you do in real life if you ran into somebody at Target? You'd say, hi, how you doing? Like, if they're there, they're there saying, oh yeah, we're shopping for back to school. Oh, wow, that's awesome. What great, right? Small talk based on whatever's going on in that situation. You're probably not going to end the conversation giving a sales pitch about yourself, right? You probably wouldn't do that in a Target. So we want to do the same thing we would do in real life. And so we want to comment very realistically about whatever it is they're sharing. So if they've posted a story today about, they're excited for the weekend to do whatever, or they've got a soccer game that they're going to, you can simply just comment on that because it's about creating the relationships and also awareness and being top of mind. It's not necessarily like a, hey, let me come up with a copy paste sort of like self-serving sales message. It's really about making it be all about them and making their day and being able to do it in a way that feels really authentic and that you are paying attention to them and their life. So a really simple way to do this on Instagram is you can create what's called a favorites list. And if you remember, I don't know, gosh, if you remember in the old days where you could have a friends list in Facebook, remember that? And now they've taken it away. But you can actually aggregate or put a list of, I think it's 50 different accounts. So if you're like, okay, these are my top clients and my top referral partners, and you don't want to spend hours, like we should not be spending hours. I rabbit hole in Instagram. I'm like, oh my God, it's been an hour and I'm just, consuming content. I want to be intentional with my connection time and my maybe you call it your prospecting time, but really my community connection engagement time. And if you want more engagement, you need to be a good engager because when they're going to reciprocate. So yes, you're probably going to have to be the proactive and step first and engage with their content, whether it's a comment in their feed post. I love direct messaging and stories because they're telling you exactly what to talk about. If they have a picture of their cute dog and their coffee mug and they're talking about their morning routine, great. You're going to talk about the dog in the morning routine, right? So that you don't even have to think about what to say. So it's about having real human conversations. And if you want to be super intentional with your time, you can create a favorites list. They don't get a notification that they're on it. And you click that favorites list. And then all of a sudden, everything leaves the feed except for posts from those people. And so now you can be like, oh, wow, this is so much easier than trying to go and find all these people and comment. So that's a way that you can use Instagram with a little bit more intention is creating a favorites list.
I love that tip because you speak truth when you can go down a rabbit hole.
Oh my gosh. Listen, I talk about how they engineer you to go down a rabbit hole and I still do it.
Yeah, yeah.
I
No,
still do it.
it's a sadly a little of addiction.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it can be. And that's also a really good point to share that I always tell my clients like mental and emotional health and well-being is our number one and we control like what our boundaries are. If you want to mute people, you can actually click mute and you can hide posts and I actually do really recommend doing that because I like to tell Instagram what I'm interested in and what I'm not interested in. And I don't want to see more of this content. I want to see more of this content or more of this type of style. And so it is really good if you haven't done that in a while, you can go to your explore page on where it's just like the little magnifying glass icon. If you tap it, it's just like a bunch of suggested posts. Like sometimes I'll get on like a holiday or a birthday idea and I'll be looking for something and then all of a sudden it's like everything is like this birthday idea thing. I'm like, okay, I just wanted to look for one idea. Now it's like you're serving me all this stuff. You can go into that explore tab and you can press and hold down on any post. Just press and hold down with your finger. And when you do that, it's going to pop up a little menu that says not interested. And nothing bad happens. Like you're not, I was like, oh, well, is this going to like impact somebody's algorithm or like not get more reach? No, it just says, hey, you don't want to see this in your feed. And so great, noted. We won't show you more of that content. There's a really good idea to, I mean, if you're going to spend time in these social media places, we should have it be as positive as possible and boundaries. You can even turn on timers inside of Instagram where if you wanted to set a little timer like after 10 minutes or 20 minutes and say, reminder, you've been on this for 20 minutes. Maybe it's time to take a break. So all kinds of tools that you can use in the settings for that.
Love it, love it. I mean, I think we've answered all the questions that were in here. Um, I can't thank you enough. Today's been great. I hopefully
Okay.
everyone on the phone has learned at least one new thing that they can walk away with. They've learned something new. I know I have some tips and things. I'm going to go to my Instagram and do some updates. So, Chelsea, thank you so much. We really enjoyed today. Thank you everyone for joining.
Yes, thank you,
Have a great.
everyone. And if you have any questions, you can find me on Instagram and send me a DM. Let me know that you came from this class so I can say hello. Thank you, everyone, so much. Thank you, Kasha. It's so great to see you.
Thank
And
you.
till next time.
Yes. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.